A warm welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. This week we dive into developments between Israel and Hamas and Russia and Ukraine. That deadline given to President Vladimir Putin by Donald Trump on a ceasefire in Ukraine comes to an end this Friday. There does not seem to be any commitment on the part of Russia, despite Ukraine showing all willingness to work things out, even groveling to the United States president. Last week, the Russian president showed no regard for President Trump in his press conference with the Belarusian president Alexander Lukashenko. Putin thinks previous ceasefire talks have gone on well, given how many prisoners of war have been exchanged between the two countries. And the last time the two sides were represented in Istanbul was on July 23rd, where they discussed draft memoranda from each side for a peace deal, as well as future exchanges of personnel. Now, another war still ongoing is that between Israel and the Hamas militant group. Recent discussions or decisions by the UK, France and Canada to formally recognize the state of Palestine gave the group some respite in the talks in Qatar. It's also shown the unwillingness of Hamas to lay down weapons before any talks of peace. Hamas released a statement last week saying it could not yield its right to resistance and its weapons unless an independent, fully sovereign Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital is established. The IDF's Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir on Friday warned that there would be no respite in fighting in Gaza if negotiations fail to secure the release of hostages being held by Hamas. We'll be delving into these issues with international affairs analyst Dr. Charles Chukwunaru after a quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles.
Nigeria and Algeria will be working towards closer and stronger bilateral ties following a meeting between the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, and his Algerian counterpart, Ahmed After. Ambassador Tuga also performs the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of a new chancery building for the Nigerian embassy in Algiers at Deli Ibrahim, the diplomatic enclave in the Algerian capital. It was attended by senior officials, embassy staff, and members of the Nigerian community in Algeria. Ambassador Tuga noted that the project marks a significant step in modernizing Nigeria's diplomatic infrastructure. The new chancery is designed with eco-friendly architecture, enhanced security features, and upgraded facilities to improve consular service delivery and working conditions for foreign service personnel. Meanwhile, Nigeria has reaffirmed its commitment to maintaining robust relationships with Ghana, including at citizen-to-citizen level. The commitment was made by the Nigerian Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, during her two-day visit to the country to address the situation of Nigeria-Ghana citizens' relations and to meet with relevant stakeholders at both ends. During her meeting with President John Mahama, he promised that Ghana is not home to xenophobia, stating Nigeria and Ghana's shared history, which cannot be broken. Speaking on an old video recently being circulated on social media, the president assured Ambassador Odumegu Ojukwu of his commitment to protect lives, property, and businesses of Nigerians living in Ghana.
We are safe and sound in Nigeria embassy.
Finally, Nigerians stranded in the Central African Republic have arrived at the Nigerian embassy in Bangui. This comes after a video showing Nigerian miners calling for help went viral. Nigerian and CAR officials intervened swiftly, relocating the miners to the capital. The Nigerians were reportedly victims of a Chinese national and a Nigerian agent who hired them for work in the country and abandoned them for 11 months without pay. The agent who lured them into the job scam is currently based in Nigeria and has been identified. He's expected to be prosecuted shortly.
Please, and we want to tell Nigerians that we appreciate all the efforts of all the staffs in the Nigerian embassy.
Welcome back. The war between Russia and Ukraine continues and shows no signs of stopping, despite the Russian President Vladimir Putin being positive about high-level talks between his country and Ukraine, and prisoner exchanges between the two. And for those still disappointed by the outcome of the talks, the Russian president says there have been excessive expectations. In the meantime, Russia has blamed an attack on its Black Sea resort of Sochi on Ukrainian drone attacks. A drone debris reportedly hit a fuel tank, and 127 firefighters were seen on Sunday tackling the blaze. 7 people were injured. Back to the Hamas militant group now. It is refusing to disarm unless a sovereign state is established. This is in response to one of Israel's key demands in talks about a ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas on Saturday reaffirmed it will not agree to disarm unless a sovereign state is established. This is in response to one of Israel's key demands in talks about a ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas says it was responding to remarks it attributed to U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, that Hamas had expressed its willingness to lay down its weapons, a key demand for Israel, which considers this as one of the key conditions for any deal to end the conflict. Right now, talks between Israel and Hamas are stalled. I want to bring in now international affairs analyst Dr. Charles Chukwunaru, who joins us from Alberta, Canada. Dr. Chukwunaru, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Israel is being pressured by Hamas to recognize the state of Palestine, but Israel has sworn to diminish Hamas, and with the rest of the world recognizing the state of Palestine, including France, the UK, and Canada, do you think Netanyahu will cave in?
Well, Hamas putting pressure on Israel, or UK, France, Canada, and others putting pressure on Israel. I don't think Hamas has the capacity to put pressure on Israel.
Why do you say that?
Because Hamas, as a fighting force, is severely degraded. So you need show of force, you need strength to put pressure on a country like Israel. And I don't think Hamas, as it is now, has the capacity to put pressure on Israel. But if you talk about France, UK, Canada, and others putting pressure on Israel, that I will agree.
But the reason Hamas is standing its ground against, giving up its weapons is because the UK, France, and even Canada have now joined the League of Other Nations that are calling for or recognizing the state of Palestine. Hamas wants Israel to do the same before it will give up its weapons.
You see, that is where the problem is. Hamas is in no position to tell Israel what to do. Remember, Hamas had the primary objective of annihilating Israel. Hamas has been backed by Iran. Now, Iran has been silenced. Have you heard Iran talk? Of course, Hamas was positioned by or emboldened by Iran to attack Israel. And of course, with the support of the, what's it called, the group in Lebanon.
Hezbollah
in Lebanon, Islamic Jihad in Syria and Iraq, and of course, what was the name of that group in Yemen?
The Houthis.
The Houthis in Yemen. So now, what is the position of the Houthis in Yemen? They have been silenced. Hezbollah in Lebanon, silenced. Iran, silenced. Syria, silenced. Iraq, the Islamic jihadists in Iraq, silenced. So And these groups constitute the backbone of Hamas. So, but Hamas is not important. So, if you talk, let's talk about France, UK, Canada putting pressure on Israel. That is what that these are the countries that can put pressure on Israel, not Hamas.
But what impact will declaring a state of Palestine do for the people of Gaza and for the Hamas campaign?
Well, the peace in Gaza or Palestine will mark an end to the rule of Hamas in Gaza. Recall that before the advent of Hamas, some say with the help of Bibi Netanyahu, against PLO, there was a Palestinian Authority led by the PLO under Oslo Accord 1 and 2. And then Hamas came into the scene, supported by Bibi Netanyahu. Well, I don't have any concrete evidence anyway, but it's that there is, preponderance of circumstantial evidence that Bibi Netanyahu at the time helped Hamas to defeat the Palestinian Authority in Gaza and took over. And that was about 20 years ago, or there about 19, 20 years ago. Since then, there have not been any other election. They rule by terror, they rule by terrorizing their own people. So if there is peace in Gaza, that will be the end of Hamas. And of course, that will also be the end of Bibi Netanyahu. So it will be well for the people of Israel, for there to be peace in Gaza and Palestine. It will be well for the people of Gaza in particular, and of course the occupied West Bank, but that will be the end of Hamas and Bibi Netanyahu.
You mean if there is a two-state solution, if the state of Palestine is established and it exists side by side Israel?
Well, I want us to draw a distinction between peace in Palestine and the Palestinian state. You cannot have the Palestinian state without peace in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. So I think the current rhetoric is just to fast track the peace process. There can't be a state of Palestine without Israel agreeing to that. We all know that. Without the US agreeing to that, we all know that. The US will veto it, and Israel will not allow it to happen. So I think the rhetoric from Canada, France, and the UK, these are mere political statements with the aim of fast tracking the peace process. So let's have peace in Gaza and occupy West Bank first. Then we'll start. Then before we get to the issue of state, that's a lot. That is far off. That's far-fetched for now.
That probably is what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is probably trying to point out to these partners. If Israel does recognize the state of Palestine, will it also help to restore relations that it lost perhaps with these other countries that accused Israel of war crimes? So talking about South Africa and a few other countries that accused Israel of war crimes and crimes against humanity because of the war in Gaza.
International relations have been redefined since the advent of, since the start of the war in Ukraine, and of course, the advent of Trump in the White House. So they talk about peace to strength in the White House, and then the man in Kremlin, Putin, is trying to change or redraw territorial boundaries by force. So in fact, there's confusion everywhere. So now talking about peace in Palestine and the two-state solution, Israel will not agree to that as it is right now. And the US is saying no. So why are we talking about it when We know that Israel will not recognize the state of Palestine now. What we should be talking about now is peace. Let's have peace between the people of Palestine and the people of Israel. It's not about Hamas. It's not about Bibi Netanyahu. I recall sometime last year, I proposed that peace contractors should be on ground. But with someone like Donald Trump in White House, who talked about owning Gaza, turning Gaza into a riviera or wherever he called it, sees it as an estate he can own. With such a person in the White House, and people are talking about the Palestinian state now, like I said before, the rhetoric coming from Canada, UK, and France, Germany is silent. It's just to fast track the peace process.
We're off on a short break. Diplomatic Channel will be right back. Welcome back. Dr. Chukwunaru has more to say on Russian President Vladimir Putin's attitude towards the peace process in Ukraine. Let's head back for the concluding part of our interview with him. So in the meantime, President Trump has ordered the repositioning of U.S. tactical submarines in response to the deadline, in preparation, I guess, and in anticipation for the deadline. Do you think that he intends to use it? Do you think he'll use it if Putin eventually does not give a response? You don't think he will?
He will not use it.
So, but
no, because the nuclear submarine is for second strike. It's for second strike capacity. Okay. See, the triad had the ones that go with surface to air, the one that would deliver with jets, and then the one from submarine. The one from submarine that no one knows. I'm even surprised that Trump was even talking about it, because the location is not supposed to be known, because it is a second strike capability. So in the event Russia strike first, US will strike from the submarines that nobody knows where it is except the US president and his close, of course, the US, the Pentagon, the top echelon of Pentagon. So it is not a first strike platform or asset. So I think what he wanted to do was to balance the terror. Russia is fond of, threatening the whole world with nuclear weapon. And of course, if you read the statement of the former president, whatever he's called, he said each ultimatum is a step towards war, and it will not be a war between Russia and Ukraine. It will be a war between Russia and your country. So he was referring to Trump. So that's for Trump, and for me, that's a direct threat. So what Trump did was to say, okay, bring it on. Okay, so he's passing the message that we are ready to engage. And so the talk of the use of nuclear weapons, leave it out of the table, because the nuclear submarine is a second strike asset. So it's not a function of who strike first. So leave that aside. It will not be used. Russia will not use it. If Russia attempts to fire a nuclear weapon against a NATO country or the US will obliterate Russia. And a nuclear confrontation between both countries will bring to earth human civilization on earth. So let us not even go there.
Well, a very grim.
And then what pains me, what is paining me right now is that the world is acting foolishly. We should be talking about the conflict that most likely end human civilization on earth, and that's environmental conflict. There are wildfires everywhere. I've seen wildfires get worse every day. And wildfires are, from my past experience, flooding. I've seen flooding come after wildfires. So nobody is talking about the environment. We're talking about, I don't know what is happening in the world these days.
Well, I'll tell you what else is
We're
happening.
talking about nuclear weapons that will never be used. We are wasting a lot of money. We are destroying our climate with these fighter jets going everywhere with these weapons of mass destruction. We are not doing well for our environment. We should be talking about the environment now and not war.
There is a place and a time for talking about the environment, Dr. Chukwunaru. Finally, you can almost hear the frustration in the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's voice when he talks about Russia's non-committal approach to peace or the ceasefire talks. Do you reckon that the region could be more cautious about this super excellent plan that President Trump has for if Russia does not come up with any position on peace with Ukraine?
But what may likely happen? Well, I thank God for the miracle of Rome, because before the miracle of Rome, the burial of the late Pope, Trump was parroting the Kremlin's rhetorics, blaming Ukraine, blaming Zelensky for the war. But I don't know what happened. Well, I call it the miracle of Rome. It started changing. And of course, his wife from Slovenia is supporting Ukraine. And his wife, in fact, he mentioned it, that after each phone call with Putin, he goes back home and says, oh, I had a phone call with Putin. And he just bombed Kyiv and killed people. So what is going on? So, well, I think he has changed. I remember I said on this platform that even though he may have been, or whether he was or is a Russian asset, there's a limit to what he can do for Putin, and the limit has reached, he has changed. What is going to happen, or what may likely happen, will be that secondary sanctions will be applied, targeting the Russian economy, targeting the people doing business with Russia. That's the only way to go about this. Forget about nuclear weapons or exchange of fire between the US, and it will not happen. And then what Trump should actually, what is expected to do is to deliver cruise missiles to Ukraine. By the time Ukraine starts delivering missiles to St. Petersburg, to Moscow, and then the economy is going down, Putin will come and negotiate. If he does not come to negotiate, there will be an uprising. Because when the economy is down and the cruise missiles are landing in Moscow, the oligarchs enjoy lives. They enjoy life a lot. They don't want to die. Putin is not the owner of Russia. So he will either negotiate or his government will crumble. So there will be secondary sanctions.
Yeah,
that will affect Russian economy.
We see the lack of impact that these sanctions have had on Russia and even the Russian economy. People in Russia still don't even understand that there is a war going on between their country and Ukraine. Dr. Chukwunaru, thank you so much.
Amarachi, they do understand. Forget about the Russian propaganda. They do understand. Over 1 million young people left Russia to avoid conscription.
But I'm talking about
Russia is buying. Russia bought 30,000 soldiers to come and fight. Sorry.
I'm talking about the impact of the war on the economy of Russia.
Of course, when 1 million people left, it will affect the young people that will work. Of course, there is while other countries are suffering unemployment, Russia is looking for workers. They have had about 1 million casualties, dead and wounded. There's no way to not affect the economy. All what you're hearing is Russian propaganda. It's affecting the economy, and it will affect the economy more. You can't tell me that over 1 million people that left, ran away, they are supposed to be working and contributing to the economy. The 1 million dead, and the money he's spending, do you know how much he spends every day? The money that is frozen in Belgium, are you saying it's not affecting their economy? Of course it's affecting their economy. But what the world is trying to see, I don't even want the economy of Russia to crumble, because if the economy of Russia crumbles, there will be a problem. Where will Russia get money to maintain the nuclear warheads? If Russia breaks into splinter groups, warlords will take over, and the weapons will get into wrong hands. So we just want people like Russia to go. People like Putin to go away, so that the people of Russia will have peace.
Well, that's not going to happen. There is a war currently going
Well,
on,
it's possible.
and
It's
President
possible.
Putin will have to stay till the end. Thank
It's
you for
possible.
your
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts.
See, Amarachi, it has happened. Who knew that the former USSR would disintegrate as at the time it did? It took everybody by surprise. Nobody saw it. I didn't see it coming. So if the former Soviet Union could disintegrate after such a long time,
we will have to leave it at that. Unfortunately, we're not talking about the USSR. It's current day Russia and Ukraine.
Russia. Do you know how many nations that make up Russia?
Dr.
Do you know how many nations that make up Russia? Are they happy to even be in Russia?
Thank you again for joining us on the program, Dr. Chukwunaru. I understand how passionate you are about these things. Unfortunately, we run out of time. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure, Amarachi.
That's the show today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Thanks for watching.